Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So today we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange 74. It was December of 1985. I picked this issue because Clea's in it, and this is when she first frees her people, the people of the Dark Dimension, from, tyranny, basically. Here she is, right here. I will give you just, she's wearing the Flames of Regency on her head, which is the flames you see on Dormammu's head. That's just to signify who the ruler of the Dark Dimension is. So I will give you just, and there's a couple better pictures of her. So I will give you just a brief history of her in case you're not familiar with her. You saw her at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse. She was played by Charlize Multiverse of Madness. Sorry. She was played by Charlize Theron. So Clea, her mom was a member of the Faltine race, who they're an extra they have extra dimensional energy beings that are trapped in human form. That's like the simplest way I can explain it. And she actually, Clea's father is one of Dormammu's disciples. I believe his name is Orani. I could be pronouncing that wrong. I probably am. But Clea's mom, Umar, actually hated her father because, he's not her. He's not like powerful like her. And so therefore she actually resented Clea and used her as bait for multiple schemes. And Umar is actually the sister of Dormammu, and they constantly fought over who would control the Dark Dimension and who would be the leader. And of course, neither of them are very benevolent leaders, obviously. So Clea, with the help of Doctor Strange, actually defeated her mom and her father in order to gain control of the Dark Dimension. So she is the Flame. She is now the ruler. So we have Doctor Strange randomly and getting a haircut, and the barber actually speaks out of turn. He hasn't been said that he could speak, and then he realizes, his assistant realizes, oh my gosh, what did you do? And the barber freaks out and says, oh my gosh, spare me, spare my family, because of course that they've had an actual benevolent ruler, because Clea's mom, Umar, and Dormammu, I mean, they're dictators. They, rule with an iron fist. They aren't benevolent whatsoever. So basically, if you speak out of turn or if you do anything you're not supposed to, you're punished. Your family's punished. Like, everyone's punished. One of the episodes of X-Men the animated series, where Storm goes to help Archon with his planet because the weather's all messed up, and she finds out it's because of the device he uses to control the slaves. And at one point, a girl comes in, basically announcing her presence, I think, and he just freaks out. And that's kind of what it reminds me of. And she's like, I'm so sorry. No, it's when Jubilee and Storm are, in Storm's chambers, and they're, kind of, Jubilee's dancing around in her dress and the fabric and stuff, and she accidentally bumps into the girl, and the girl spills the cup, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, please don't punish me, please don't report me. And that's what it reminds me of, because they're all scared of Archon because he has those things that he controls, the bracelets the slaves wear. It reminds me of, people are so scared to say anything, to say, just, they're scared of being punished for anything that they do. So Doctor Strange, Clea's mom and dad are in a spell of stasis, and Doctor Strange says, Clea, well, you. They're your parents. What would you like to do with them? You know, as much as it pains me, I think they need to be banished. So they perform the spell of banishment together, and her parents are banished from the dark dimension. You see that, you know, they're obviously together. So Clea asked Doctor Strange actually to stay with her in the dark dimension and rule by her side, and he says, I'm sorry, I can't, because the people of Earth they need me. You know, I'm dead. I need to be there for them. So she stays behind in this in between the stuff. You know, this person, Strange, feels, and he's like, who could this be? I mean, and there's such power behind this person's gaze. Like, I don't know who this is. I need to go find out. And he says he could tell that this person was, looking specifically and for him. So he leaves the dark dimension, goes through dimensions, and comes upon his own sanctum, because that's where the last were. So I will say, to give you, more of a history of Clea. So even though this is the first time she freed her people, they wouldn't stay freed. Her mom would come back, and Dormammu, he is constantly in and out of the dark dimension. Mom would come back with Baron Mordo as her consort at one point. Those two make quite a pair. And so, as I said, Umar doesn't care for her daughter, Clea. She uses her as a pawn in all of her schemes. But at some point, though, she realizes she does care for her, because Doctor Strange and Clea, they got married in the dark dimension, which means they joined their souls together. And whenever she would go to hurt Doctor Strange, she'd hurt Clea also. So, that's when she realized that she actually did care about her daughter. And like I said, this is 85. They actually do get married, Clea and Doctor Strange, for real, in, I think, 89, a couple of years later. And what is also interesting is that Clea is currently, in the Marvel Universe, the current Sorcerer Supreme. Because Strange died in a battle with the three witches, pursuing the three witches, and Caecilius, Mordo's disciple, ended up being the one that ultimately killed him. And Doctor Strange established his school of magic the year before he died. And so he died last year. And as of right now, I believe he's still currently dead, but people don't stay dead in comics forever. There's actually a really interesting story about that. People being dead in comics and stuff. It has to do with Deadpool. I guess I'll have to talk. Obviously, we're talking about Doctor Strange. So she's currently the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange passed that title on to her, which made Doctor Doom really upset because, as we talked about in the Psychology of Superheroes, he and Doctor Strange once battled for the position of Sorcerer Supreme. So, but I won't go into all of that because, I already went into all of it. So, Doctor Strange finds Wong and Sarah, which we talked about Sarah in 70, who she is, but basically she's his assistant and the love interest of Wong. Finds them frozen, and he's like, what happened? And she's like, this man came in and he just phased through the door, like like Kitty Pryde, Shadow Cat. She can just phase through stuff. It's like he was a ghost, but he touched me, he grabbed me. He was looking for something. He was looking, tore through all the protective spells of the orb of Agamotto and looked and found you, and he just freaked out. Like, he freaked out when he saw Doctor Strange, and he's like, it's too much, and he ran from the room, like, sobbing and saying, not human, not human, and they didn't really understand what that meant. So Doctor Strange says, I'd better go find out. From here I can locate him. I can use his aura, his essence to so he finds them. Okay, this is where I'm like, I don't know, it gets a little dicey. He's a Beyonder in a bar drunk. Like, drunk out of his mind drunks, to where the bartender's like, I think I should cut you off, and you should leave my bar. Okay, so here's, he tells Doctor Strange, I'm from beyond. I'm beyond mortal things. Here's the Beyonder, who is definitely not mortal, is definitely not human. He has all this tremendous power, and he's drunk, which I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't make a lot of sense, honestly. But, it moves the story along because, yeah. So, Doctor Strange finds him in a bar, which he's, Doctor Strange says, this is reminiscent of a time in my life, and the Beyonder's messing up the place, throwing guys out the window, and when he sees Doctor Strange, he, like, basically falls at his feet, and he's like, I need you to show me the way, and Doctor Strange, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know who you are. How do you know me? How did you find me? Well, obviously, he knows how he found him because Wong and Sarah told him. Okay, so Saturday morning cartoons. I don't remember all of these cartoons because, of course, I wasn't, like, really alive when all this went on. But I do like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. They're on Disney Plus right now. I saw them way back when they aired on TV, and I used I'm going to date myself a little bit, a VCR tape to record them from, off of TV. And of course, the Gummy Bears were on Disney Channel, Alvin and the Chipmunks, everyone knows about them, Smurfs, Spider-Man, Mr. T. I mean, it's just interesting because, they don't really have Saturday morning cartoons anymore. Oh, and Pippi Longstocking. They just don't, because I guess, they only had a couple basic channels, and now there's cable and all the streaming services, so they just feel like that's not really necessary, which, I get it, but okay. So anyway, Doctor Strange is like, who the heck are you? And this is where the Beyonder's like, I'm from beyond, I don't know how to tell you what I am. And he uses his third eye, to see who he is, and Doctor Strange is like overwhelmed with what he sees, like, which is, and it mentions eternity, Dr. Stephen Strange, once Sorcerer Supreme of our own universe, who has stood unafraid before eternity. We talked about that issue. He's walked through, the heart of chaos, heart of light, and he, Doctor Strange kind of recoils and, like, loses his balance, and he's like, oh my gosh, he has tremendous power, like, beyond any power I've ever felt. And basically, the Beyonder wants to know how to be human. He's like, being, human, it's mad, it's crazy. Like, I don't understand how you do it. Like, I need to know, I need enlightenment. I need you to teach me how to be human. I need you to teach me what that means. And Doctor Strange is like, what should I do? I could tell him the truth, or I could lie to him, but, I mean, he's probably going to know that I'm lying at some point, so I'm just going to tell him, from my experience, what I have learned, what it means to be human. So basically, he has them walk through a series of doors. Starts with the first one, and kind of shows him glimpses of his own life. So this is where Doctor Strange is Doctor Strange. He's, an arrogant surgeon. He's super high in demand, but he only cares about fame and money and will only take more cartoons. Will only take a client if it brings him prestige, money, if they can afford his fee. So he sees that part of him, and then he walks through another door because Doctor Strange leaves, and he sees him sitting at the bar. And this is where Doctor Strange is distraught. And like, I've lost everything that was important to me. I've lost who I am. Like, what do I do now? And he hears about this ancient one who can cure anything, like anything at all. And that's where, then he walks through another door. And you see Doctor Strange confronting the Ancient One and saying, I just need you to fix my hands so I can be a surgeon again. So, I need you to fix them, heal me, so I can do what I want to do again. And basically, basically the Ancient One is like, I need you to, forego all that. Like, forget your earthly desires so that I can teach you. So apparently, the Beyonder can talk to people in these apparitions, or this dream, these visions. And he says, so he says to the Ancient One, so Doctor Strange actually refused your teaching at one point. And the Ancient One says, well, then you're beginning to see the picture. And then, yes, later he was his teacher. And the Ancient One says something very interesting, which I'm like, okay. He says, for confusion isn't a necessary step. A rock does not doubt, nor does it believe. Your confusion serves its purpose. I guess that's saying that, if you're confused, you ask questions, you do research, you find out more. Whereas if you're not confused, then you don't gain any more knowledge. You don't understand, or you don't go beyond what you know. I think that's what he's saying. So, and then he, Doctor Strange leaves, and he's like, all this mumbo jumbo, is stupid. Like, I'm leaving. And he sees Baron Mordo, which he's just Mordo at this point. He's not Baron Mordo. He sees him trying to contact Dormammu, and Doctor Strange says, oh my gosh, the Ancient One needs to know about this. And of course, Mordo is like, no, he can't know about this. He can't, and you're not going to tell him. He silences him. And so the Beyonder's like, I'll stop you. And, in the vision, Mordo is like, what can you do to stop me? Nothing. Because he can interact with them, but he can't, actually touch them, because they're visions of the past. And so he walks through the other door, and he sees Doctor Strange talking to the Ancient One. And the Ancient One says, I knew of Mordo's cowardly attack, and you were brave to just defy him and his spell in order to come warn me. And he said you came here seeking, a way to ease your own woes, and instead what you're offered is danger and sorrow and more pain. Think carefully of what you ask. And Doctor Strange says, I still wish to become your disciple. And so the Beyonder is very confused. He's like, I don't understand. So your answer is more pain. That's what makes you human. And Doctor Strange says, no, that's not what makes you human. What makes you human is that you see people in pain and you want to do something, that you want to have them, help them, give them happiness if you can. And not the dedication and the willingness to help others that transcends your own pain and transcends your own desire. And that's why Doctor Strange does what he does, because and a lot of heroes do, is they want to help others. They want to take away others' pain, or, at least, or prevent it, or at least help if they can. And so Doctor Strange undoes the illusion, and he tells the Beyonder, if you had not gone through that door to try to prevent Mordo from, harming me, you would be stuck in that illusion forever. But the fact that you tried to save me freed yourself. And that's, and the Beyonder's like, I still don't understand. Like, that's it? That's all I have to be happy is to sacrifice? And Doctor Strange says, because you must know what to sacrifice. And the world exacts a price from us proportionate to our abilities. And so since you have great power, great power comes great responsibility. Where have we heard that from? Since you have great power, he says, I expect great things from you. So the Beyonder, he's still confused. He's like, if that's enlightenment, that doesn't help me at all. Like, I don't understand. And Doctor Strange says that's because happiness, can be transcended as well. You can't teach that. But this is, and he says, I'm just teaching you from my own experience. This is my experience. This is what I have done in my life. This is what I have dedicated myself to. And because that's all I can teach you is what I know and what I have experienced. Because I can't speak for others. So, and Doctor Strange cautions him, says, you have great power, so I need you to be careful, because you could have destroyed this bar and injured those men further. Because Doctor Strange, of course, came upon the scene and saved them from being seriously hurt. And what does he do? Beyonder, he's like, oh, sorry. And he ruins the bar further. It's like, okay. Ruins the bar further by trying to help, putting things back in, but just basically destroying it further. And he's like, he leaves Doctor Strange and says, I'll think about what you said. And I'll try to do what you have taught me. So Doctor Strange, uses his magic to put the bar back together. And he says, he hopes his lesson resonates with the Beyonder, and he hopes that he, will take into account what he has said, because with all that power, there's no way Doctor Strange could stop him again. So with the Beyonder, like I said, he was part of 3 big Secret Wars crossovers in Marvel. The first one, he took everyone to this place called Battle World and, pitted the heroes against each other, the heroes and villains. And then the second one is where he is trying to figure out what it means to be human, and that he wants to be human. He desires to be human. But then his desires, overwhelm him. And then he decides, okay, well, he needs to be mortal. But then he realizes if he's mortal, he's vulnerable. So he's trying to be mortal with all of his powers, though. So he creates this machine in order to be mortal with his powers. It gets destroyed, and he's no more. And then Secret Wars 3, the heroes have approached him in his own dimensions, because his power is dispersed, and creates another dimension where he lives, and is happy, because he's forgotten about the other world where he had desires and needs and wanted things. So the heroes visit him there, and he gets really upset, because he's like, I had forgotten that part of my life. I wanted to move beyond it. I wanted to move past it. How dare you? And they explain that he's actually a creation of a faulty cosmic cube that the race of the Beyonders created. So he agrees to be you know, reabsorbed into the cube, which creates a whole other entity called Cosmos. But we won't go into that because that's a whole nother story too. And what's interesting is that he actually had the Beyonder had two romantic relationships with two characters, Dazzler and Boom Boom. So that's mostly where I know him from. And of course, I mean, well, he's part of a huge crossover, 3 huge crossovers. So most people know who he was. And he was part of the Avengers cartoons, Battle World specifically. So most people kind of know who he is, but I mean, like I said, this was 85, and his first series, Secret Wars, was the year before that. So not super well known, but I heard rumors that Marvel plans to do a Secret Wars like crossover movie thing, which will be cool, but they've like killed off or gotten rid of or replaced or whatever a lot of the main characters, so I don't know how that's going to go. I guess we'll see. So next we're going to talk about Doctor Strange 75. Yeah, 75. So I hope you will join me for that one. Until next time. Bye.